Hi, today we are gonna talk about the chapters 4, 5, and 6 from The Great Gatsby. Chapter 4. Nick is attending to Gatsby's parties and doing a lot of things as friends, such as using his car, his hydroplane, and the rest of his luxuries. The thing is that their friendship is growing. One day, they went out together with the car, and Gatsby wants to tell Nick a story about his past. Gatsby reveals he's the son of a wealthy family from the Middle East, more precisely from San Francisco. They all died, and he inherited a huge fortune. He was also educated in Oxford as a family tradition, and he spent his youth living around Europe's main cities. And after the war came, he was called for military service against the Germans. Gatsby tells his story to Nick because he has a big request for him, and Jordan is going to tell him about that later. That same day, Gatsby and Nick drive together to New York and meet for lunch, where Gatsby presents Nick his friend Meyer Wolfsheim. They talk together about some memories they have, for example, when Wolfsheim was shot in a restaurant, the Old Metropole. All of this with the purpose from involving Nick in Gatsby's business. Later, Nick meets with Jordan. Nick wants to know what the request is. Jordan tells him a story she knew, and it consists in 1917, she visited Daisy and saw her with an officer who was actually Gatsby, and they were very in love with each other. Gatsby went to war, and 1 year later, Daisy was engaged with a guy from Chicago, Tom Buchanan, because he was also a wealthy guy. In the past time, Gatsby has been doing those parties, hoping that one day Daisy attend to one of them. The request Gatsby has for Nick is to invite Daisy so they can reconnect with Gatsby. Analysis. In this chapter, we can see the main situation is the request Gatsby has for Nick, and the connection with the relationship. The whole chapter is focused on the request Gatsby wants Nick to do, which is based on the story of his life and with Daisy. The essence of the new rich people in this period is in. Gatsby has in his mind the strategy of using his money to impress the people and to achieve what he wants. And in that society, money is a symbol of power. It's also seen the interest for superficiality. Daisy never knew if Gatsby really died, and he said that Tom cheated to her constantly, but she kept being with him. That's a symbol that she cares a lot about status and superficial things. This situation shows the truth beneath the Gatsby and Nick's friendship. It's seen Nick has double feelings for Gatsby. He likes him, but at the same time he finds him disgusting. And we can identify Gatsby tries to be closer to Nick purposely, because he's convinced he could do anything for him, in this case, the request. There are some situations that make this main conflict meaningful. All of them are related with Nick and Gatsby and their relationship. The first one is in the beginning, when all the things Gatsby is doing to get closer to Nick are mentioned. The second one is when Gatsby presents Wolfsheim. It's because he wants to involve Nick in his business. And the third one is the conversation Nick has with Jordan about the request from Gatsby. All the three situations show the reason of Gatsby's behavior with Nick, because he really thinks he will do everything for him, and additionally show the essence itself from the book, the succeed as superiority through money. With that, we will be able to recognize its meaningful. Chapter 5. Nick has just returned from his meeting with Jordan. There arrives Gatsby, who's nervous because of the conversation they had. That's why he asked him if he wanted to go to Coney Island or to swim in his pool to talk about it. Nick just responds that he's going to invite Daisy and when would he like that meeting to take place. Nick suggests the day after tomorrow and Gatsby accepts. Now, because he's happy, Gatsby offers Nick a job for making lots of money, but Nick denies it. The day of the appointment, it was raining. Nick's house was decorated extra fancy and Gatsby was nervous. When Nick heard Daisy knocking, he let her in, and Daisy thought for a while that Nick was in love with her because he told her to come without Tom. They wait in a room until Gatsby arrives from outside. Immediately, Daisy recognizes him and says she's glad to see him again and starts to cry, and that they hadn't met each other for almost 5 years in November. Gatsby was acting extra nervously. He broke up a clock. After that, they were just chatting, and Nick and Gatsby went to another room where Nick said that was an awkward situation and he wanted to leave. Gatsby started thinking the meeting was a great mistake, but right after that, it stopped raining, and Gatsby invited Daisy and Nick to take a look around his mansion. While Daisy takes off the makeup because she was crying, Gatsby mentioned to Nick that it took 3 years to amass the money to buy that mansion. Nick was surprised because he thought Gatsby had inherited his fortune, but what happened is Gatsby lost a lot of money from the pre-war economical crash, and to get it back, he had been involved in the business of drugs and oil, but he was doing something else now. Gatsby asked once again Nick about the job, but he didn't respond. As they were making a tour through the house, they saw a picture of Gatsby's best friend, Dan Cody, who had passed away. Gatsby shows a collection of t-shirts from England he has, makes his piano player play an elegant theme, and yeah. At the end, Daisy and Gatsby stood looking romantically for a long time. Nick didn't exist anymore for them. Then he left. Analysis. The main situation is the reunion between Gatsby and Daisy. Here is seen once again the intent to impress through money, when Gatsby makes a tour in his huge mansion and shows the t-shirts, etc. So Daisy becomes aware he's rich now, considering she chose Tom because of his money. It's also able to see Gatsby feels unsure with himself, because when Daisy comes after so long, despite being rich now, he acts nervously, as when he breaks the clock or says everything was a mistake. The following situations are the ones that make the main conflict meaningful. The first one is when Gatsby behaves nervously because it's a sample that even with money, Gatsby does not feel he's enough for Daisy. The second one, when Nick goes away without after meeting, because it shows one more time Gatsby's using Nick for what he wants. He got what he wanted from him, the invitation, and after that, he didn't exist anymore. These situations show the true personality from the character of Gatsby. Gatsby still feels insufficient despite being rich. He shows like something, but he acts otherwise. Intends to impress everybody with parties using his money, but deep down, he's unsure from being enough for Daisy. Chapter 6. At the beginning of the chapter, a young man arrives in Gatsby's house asking for a statement, but Gatsby doesn't know what he's talking about. He suspects it's about all the rumors that have been spread about him because of the parties and eccentric life. Immediately after that, Gatsby remembers another story about his past. He came truly from a poor farmer family. When he was 17 years old, he changed his name. His legal name was James Katz. The same year, he took a job as fisher on Lake Superior, when one day he met Dan Cody on a big yacht, a millionaire who made his fortune in the copper mines. Gatsby immediately had the desire of being like him. He was now his idol, and they became friends later. Dan had an alcoholic problem, and one day he drank himself until death. Gatsby received only $25,000 because of a woman named Ella Kay stayed with the rest. Gatsby confessed to Nick that the story about the wealthy family was a lie. A few weeks later, Nick went to Gatsby's house where there was a party, and he saw Tom Buchanan together with Daisy. During the party, Tom went to hang out with some friends, truly with girls, and Daisy got upset about it. Before leaving, after the party ends, Nick stays with Gatsby so they can talk, and Gatsby tells he wants Daisy to tell Tom she never loved him and to run off with him. At the end of the chapter, there is a flashback to the day when Daisy and Gatsby first kissed. After that, Gatsby decided Daisy was going to be the last woman he would get in love with. In this chapter, it's possible to see more than one main conflict. The first main conflict is a truly Gatsby story. In that fragment, we learn why Gatsby is how he is, basically a new rich, odd guy. It can be deduced it's because he came from a modest family, and when he was young, he met his idol who became later his friend, and because he inherited little from him, he was inspired to become as rich as him. The second one is the plan Gatsby has from running off with Daisy. During the party, it's seen Daisy starting to have enough from Tom, and Gatsby is willing to leave everything behind to be with her. In this case, we could say the situations are meaningful because show big change in the characters. Now Gatsby is convinced everything is possible with enough determination and money, and Daisy starts caring about the things that matter, like love and values, etc. Okay, thank you very much. That was it for today.